What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new tactics video. Today it's going to be a Pep 4-4-2 that transitions into a 4-3-3. It's a really exciting tactic, and if you do enjoy the tactics over on this channel, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. But let's get into it and see how good this transition and tactic actually is. So as I said in the intro, it obviously is going to be a transition and tactic, and I took a lot of inspiration from the video, which you can see in the description below. It really explains how this tactic sort of is, how it shapes up as a 4-4-2, but slowly transitions into more of a 4-4-3. Now, what I will say is 4-4-3, 4-3-3. Now, what I will say is obviously this game's not that realistic when it comes to sort of transition and tactics into each other. So you do sort of see it, and I'm going to show that in the actual game highlights. But in real life, this is a real masterpiece from Pep, as we're used to seeing. But if you guys do obviously enjoy them, then do also let me know in the comments below any of the teams that you wish to see to be tested with. In future videos, when their tactics not based around managers, I've already currently got Luton that want to be tested with. Coventry as well, people are asking for, to obviously the playoff team. So do let me know in the comments and I'll make sure that happens. So the first team we're going to test with is going to be his current side, Manchester City. It was an incredible season. Obviously, in real life, they're going to do the treble. In the game, we've done the quadruple, so we won up Pep, which we do like to see. We won the Champions League, which you can see up here, which I'm also going to show you the highlights from. We won the Premier League, the FA Cup, and also the Carabao Cup. We scored 120 goals, only conceded 36, and picked up 0 red cards. In terms of the league table, it was a little bit closer than what sometimes we see, as Liverpool, unfortunately, a little bit behind for them, coming in at a 6-point difference. Obviously, we've done enough to get the job done. Other than that, we had quite a big gap on Arsenal, Chelsea, and United not even touching 65 points. So quite a big gap there in terms of the actual sort of competition inside the top 4. In terms of the team stats, very good for us here. Most points per game at 2.45. Most goals at 120. Most shots for nearly at 1,000, sitting at 954. And the most possession, which is to be expected, at 61%. So some really good stat lines there. And in terms of the data hub, we're going to be looking at 3.16 goals per game and conceded at 0.95 with a pass completion of 88.24. Now, I genuinely do believe we could have easily got this sort of conceded per game down a little bit if we were able to play with a lower mentality. But in FM, the way the game is, you can't really play a 4-4-2 on a balanced sort of mentality because you'll just stale the entire game. It's one of the things which isn't realistic about FM, in my opinion. As good as FM is, there's so many things that aren't good in the game. So that is something we have got to take into consideration. Realistically, in real life, this is actually a really defensively solid formation, and it would be nice to see how we could possibly change tactics in this actual game, in possession and out of possession. That's something they really need to work on. But in terms of the actual data hub, still a really good season. And going over the goals, it is going to be who you'd expect, really. Haaland coming in with 94, Foden with 20, 18 for De Bruyne, Alvarez with 12, 11 for Rodri, 10 for Silva, 8 for Grealish. In terms of the assists, we've got 24 for De Bruyne, Silva with 22, 17 for Foden, Rodri with 13, 13 for Grealish, 12 for Haaland, and Mahrez with 10, also Gomez with 10, and also Ake. I'm not going to go over everyone, but absolutely loads of players getting involved with the goals and also the assisters, which is something we do love to see. I never like it when it's purely reliant on one player. Now, I will say, obviously, goal-wise, Haaland's always going to score a lot of the goals. Previously in the City team, that wasn't it. When they didn't really have an all-and-out striker, that little gap they had between, they got Haaland, obviously they lost Aguero. This is actually how the 4-4-2 come about. It essentially was playing 2 sort of supportive strikers. Again, something that doesn't always work at FM, so we've had to slightly go off track, but still a really good tactic. But they're going to go over to Bayern Munich, obviously one of his former teams. The team that has just won the Bundesliga in real life, as Dortmund bottled it, which isn't good to see. As a neutral, you want to see someone different win the league. But over in our save, we did win the league as well, and also the German Super Cup against RB Leipzig. 109 goals scored, only 23 conceded, and this season picking up the 1 red card. In terms of the league table, a lot more dominant over in England. 88 points coming in for us. Frankfurt with 71, Dortmund with 61, not having the best season, and RB Leipzig having a really bad season, finishing in 5th place with 55 points. In terms of the team stats, we are going to be looking very dominant over in Germany. Most points per game with 2.59, most goals at 109, most shots for 841, fewer shots at 237, most possession coming in at 63%. Fewest conceded at 23, and the most clean sheets coming in at 19. So a real sort of just dominant season in terms of not only what we've won, the team stats, and I'm sure the data hub will even back this up even more, as it does. A lot more defensively solid over in Germany as well. 3.21 goals per game, so over 3 goals is really impressive. A fantastic pass completion at 89 or over 89%. and conceded at 0.68. So all aspects of the game are really well covered. And in terms of the squad, we are going to look, because it's a little bit different. We are going to have some more of a variety, really, because Bayern don't really have that all-and-out goal scorer. They don't have a Lewandowski anymore. So it's going to be Gnabry, player coming in with 50, Sadio Mane with 35, 12 for Musiala, obviously the one that won them the Bundesliga yesterday, 8 for Sane, Moting with 5. Then there is a little bit of a drop-off, to be fair. In terms of the assists, we're seeing everything. Again, we're seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players with over 7 assists in the season, or 7 and above. So a lot of players getting involved with the assistant side, also the goal scoring side, which is what I expected a Pep tactic. It's almost, you know, everyone can get on the ball, everyone creates chances for each other. It's exactly what we want to be seeing. To finish things off, this is probably the club which I think of most when I think of Pep. That peak, that bond he had with Lionel Messi, it's always something you're never going to forget. And this was a quadruple winning season as well, as we do win the Champions League, which I'm going to watch the highlights as well, against Chelsea in a 5-2 win. We also won the Spanish First Division, the Spanish Cup, and also the Spanish Super Cup. We scored 102 goals, conceded only 19, and picked up 2 red cards across the entire season. In terms of the actual table, it was really tight. Actually, only a game separating us in terms of 3 points. Real Madrid very close coming in with 96, but luckily we had a very good season. Literally a 3-point advantage. So, I mean, probably the game we played against Real Madrid that we won was going to be the difference maker. Although saying that, we would have still won on goal difference. But going over to the team stats, absolutely dominant again. Possession is something we've never questioned ourselves on. 63% of the ball. Fewest conceded tied with Real Madrid at 19. Most shots at 905. Most points at 2.61. And the most goals at 102. And in terms of the data hub, we're looking at 2.68 goals per game, conceded at 0.5. So a little less scoring, a lot better defending realistically. So not too annoyed there's a little bit of a drop off in the goals per game, because we have improved defensively over in Spain for whatever reason that is. And the pass completion, still really impressive, pretty much sitting at 88.5%. And we are going to watch one of the Champions League finals to kick things off, and that is going to be Barcelona's Champions League final against Chelsea in a 5-2 win, which we do actually take the lead in, as Ansu Fati picks up the ball from Lewandowski, sort of goes out wide, he's going to cut it back. A little bit lucky there with Dembele on the volley, an absolute clinical finish. Let me know in the comments, what do you think is going to happen with Ansu Fati? I've saw rumours of him leaving. At one point, he was one of the hottest prospects in football, compared to what is pretty much neck and neck with Vinicius. Now it seems he could be off, so what do you think's going on with him? Because I think he has got the talent, just seems to have fallen off a little bit. Frankie de Jong there into Pedri, a ball over the top from an overlap and run into Fati, into Lewandowski. Realistically, he's never going to miss from there. What a miss for Bayern Munich, by the way, that player. I understand why he did want to move on, though, to be fair to him. Ferran Torres out wide here again, an absolute blast from the past. Picks up the ball, drifts it across into the left-hand corner. You can't really go wrong. Obviously, Ferran Torres, the player that was at Manchester City, so quite interesting we get to sort of use the player that was in this system, but at a different team, which is always interesting. As Dembele picks up the ball there into Frankie de Jong, again right down the middle, but a lot of power. So we're not really gonna question Mendy too much in that situation. As we go again here down the right hand side, tons of space, a ball back inside into Frankie de Jong, who takes a little touch, drives inside, goes alone, and hits it. No one's gonna stop him. And Frankie, if you're watching, come to United. You'll absolutely love it. They do, however, bounce back here, though, with Mason Mount. A great run, to be fair, from Raheem Sterling. Catches the fullback lacking there. Ideally, I feel like that could have been prevented to Stegen. I mean, maybe it looks sort of semi down the middle, so I'm going to pin a little bit of blame on the goalkeeper there. And they do actually get another goal towards the end of the game there, as it is going to be this beautiful match engine switching off, as it is going to be Alonso having a little nap as Sterling gets in behind. And I imagine he's going to square it into Kai Havertz. And yeah, there's no stopping that one. But overall, a really good game, a dominant game in what was a 5-2 win. We're now going to watch the Champions League final, which was against Barcelona. Now, this obviously when we were Manchester City, we weren't obviously testing in the same save, so we didn't play ourselves. That makes sense. I did these separately. I always do when we do use big teams, because you've got a really good chance of playing each other in these competitions, and then you never really get an accurate result. But luckily, we did come out and win this quite convincingly as well, as Alvarez builds it up through the middle, into Rodrigo, into De Bruyne, and unfortunately, it is going to be this player here who just misses out on that one, Busquets, and De Bruyne tucks in and puts a great finish into the bottom right corner past to Stegen. De Bruyne here, great play through the middle into Haaland, back out to Bernardo. He wants the ball back. It's a great give and go into Erling Haaland, and that is a great finish into the left-hand corner. That just shows how good this give and go sort of style is in this system. Between him and Bernardo Silva, it works really well. injured Jack Grealish here into Nathan Ake, taking his time on the ball, goes direct there over to Bernardo Silva. Is he going to find his mate in the middle? He is. Erling Haaland, always going to be there ready for the ball in. And it's again, them two partnering up really well. Ake played a big part of that as well. They do, however, have a good chance and a half here, as it's going to be a Rauhau coming up from the right-hand side into Kesse. And again, I'm going to be real, it's a mixture of just him having too much space, really. It's not really a mixture. Way too much space in the box there. They do get one goal back, but never really like they were going to sort of come back into the game fully. As we do, however, go and bounce back here and maintain another 3-goal advantage, as Christensen with a poor clearance into Bernardo Silva, who works his magic in a very dominant second Champions League final. We are now going to break down all 3 of these versions of the tactics, guys. If you are enjoying today's video, though, please do leave a like, subscribe, and also turn on notifications. We're pushing for 10k right now, and also, I'm going to be doing a rebuild next week, so leave a comment on what rebuild you want to see. I've got the one done for this week, but I am going to be putting all of the ideas into a poll, so get your ideas in for next week's rebuild. So this is going to be Peps 442 that obviously does transition into that 433, and I would recommend, honestly, watching the video in the description below. It's not made by me, so full credit to that user as well, and that just shows how this transitions into a 433 actually in the game. And I do want to quickly thank all of the names coming down the screen right now. These are going to be new or existing Patreon members. Absolutely means the world to me. It helps me out massively, and it also gives you guys some cool perks as well. You get access to all 3 of these tactic files: early tactic release, early video release, exclusive giveaways, one-on-one tactic help for you, priority in the tactic requests, and also a little bit more. So be sure to check that out in the description. It's a very reasonable price, and like I said, it's just a way of supporting, but you don't have to do it. As I do always go over all of these tactics click for click, so that's why I like to include that in there. So I do apologise if the videos are a little bit longer, but that's exactly why I do that. Going over, though, to the Pep 442. So we're going to kick things off then by briefly explaining a little bit about this tactic, what sort of happens in the transition and phase, and why it sort of come about. So this tactic sort of come about from when Manchester City lost Aguero. They had that period where pretty much Ferran Torres was brought in to get the goals. Didn't really work, so he's more of a supportive sort of striker, like a false 9, like a, you know, sort of one of them roles there. In the game, unfortunately, you can't really get away with playing a 4-4-2 with 2 sort of supportive roles, in my opinion. So we've had to slightly adapt it purely to get results in the game. So I'm going to say that right now before I see any silly comments saying, well, they wouldn't have had a striker, would they? So that is why there is a little bit of a tweak there. And essentially what happens is, both of these midfield players, as you're going to see in that video, they do sort of drift into very attacking areas, not issues, and they do essentially form a 4-3-3 in the end, which is really interesting to see. It's a lot more easily explained in that video because it's got a nice sort of dynamic path map, and it looks really nice compared to what the state of this this sort of graphic looks like. But it works really, really well in real life, and I just really wish for next FM we can see an in possession and an out of possession sort of tactic we can have on each one. I think that'd be a really good addition. One of the viewers commented that previously on the poll I done, and I do fully agree with it. Kicking these off, and it's going to be an attacker mentality based off the tiki-taka style, by the way, guys. In possession, you want fairly narrow, focus down the left and the right, play out of defence, much shorter passing, slightly higher tempo, be more expressive, dribble less, work ball into the box, and low crosses. In transition, you've got counter press, distribute to the centre backs, and take short goal kicks. And out of possession, we've got the higher defensive line, a key part in this formation, the high pressing line, much more often, and prevent short goalkeeper distribution. Going over to the player roles, we've got a sweeper keeper on attack on the default instructions, an inverted wingback on support on the right on get further forwards. And on the left, it's going to be exactly the same. 2 ball playing defenders in this system, both on defend, both on the default instructions. So the back line, not loads of custom instructions, but you're not always needing them, guys. They are literally, it's all you need, to be honest. Like, obviously, this is when Cancelo was really in form. He practically was playing as a midfielder on some occasions, so it was really cool to see him sort of drift into this area here. I honestly miss that Cancelo, man. Honestly, he was a brilliant fullback. Absolutely brilliant. On the left-hand side, we've got a winger on attack. On pass it shorter, shoot more often and roam from position. And on the right-hand side, it's going to be exactly the same. In the middle, we've got a central midfielder on automatic. On pass it shorter, get further forwards, roam from position, move into channels, and tackle harder. And next to him, a box-to-box on support. On pass it shorter, dribble less, shoot more often, and move into channels. Going up top, we've got a false 9 on support. or default instructions. You could use a deep line forward, but for me, more ideally, it looks like a false 9, and an advanced forward on attack on move into channels. If you are wanting to recreate Pep's tactics down to an absolute T, it would be 2 false 9s. I did test it. Unfortunately, in this game, it doesn't really allow you to play that way, hence why we tweaked it, just so I am releasing a tactic that is really good for you guys. But if you do wish to change it, you're more than welcome to. Now, going over to the attacking one, there wasn't too much we could tweak, to be honest, purely because it already is a very attacking tactic, obviously, in this game. But we have actually revved up the mentality all the way to very attacking. That does mean it pretty much gets forced. You can't time waste, you can't do this and that, because obviously eliminate some of the instructions that we did have. So I'm going to quickly just hover over both of these tabs so you can see if anything has changed. Nothing too much changed at all, if anything, to be honest. But that is obviously what happens when you go very attacking. Obviously, you can't then time waste as well. It's sort of counteracting the side of the game. The only change actually in the team instructions is going to be that now both of the midfielders are told to get further forwards. Obviously, in the other one, it was only one of them. So very limited changes because it isn't too much I can do. For example, I didn't want the inverted wingbacks going on attack as well because it would leave us very vulnerable, considering we've also got that higher line. I did try a much higher defensive line, and with a 4-4-2 in this game, doesn't work at all. So that's a little bit of advice as well. Going over to the defensive variant, there are quite some changes, as you can see. So a couple of the changes are going to be, it might not look anything too special, as in the roles are actually the same. The key change is going to be the balance mentality. That really makes this a much more defensively solid tactic. In possession, we're going to have be more expressive taken off, time waste and set to frequently. This is a tactic you switch to if you are desperate to seal out a game, not something you'd have on to pretty much just go into a game with, in my opinion. You want work ball into the box on, still the same on everything else, just the one thing that's really being taken off is to be more expressive. In transition, we've got slow pace down. Out of possession, we've got much more often, still exactly the same, but the line does drop to a standard defensive line. Going over to the player roles, they are going to be exactly the same because it works really, really well and they get into really good areas. But the main changes are, again, going to be coming from the midfield, as none of them are going to be told to get further forwards now. Still passing it shorter, still moving into channels, making dangerous options. But a little bit of a change, as you can see there, as both of them being told not to get further forwards. And that is going to be 3 variants of this Pep 4-4-2. Slash 4-3-3, whatever you really want to call it. A tactic that works really well in my eyes and got some really good results. It is designed for more elite teams, and there's nothing wrong with me saying that. But that's a very misunderstood concept in this community sometimes. Every tactic you release has to perform with every team. Not at all. At the end of the day, if you release a 3 at the back attacking tactic, it's going to work well with really good teams. Maybe not with a, I was going to say a Luton then, they just got promoted. Probably not the best example, but you have to use a little bit of common sense as well, This is designed for top teams, but to be fair, a 4-4-2 probably will work with most teams, so use it as you will, and do let me know as well so I can keep other people updated. If you guys have enjoyed today's video, please do leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you on Tuesday for another video.